عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام وأولاده وصحبه. May God continue to reward us and increase us in our commemoration of Imam Hussein and his family and his companions on the way to Karbala, in Karbala and after. May God bless all of you who have contributed to this majlis, and be aware that the reward of this lies, of course, with the Ahlul Bayt. And as we heard the other day, the Ahlul Bayt do not keep debts, but they always render what is due to those who have given them something. So we pray that this will always be the case. May God bless all those who have been participating in this majlis by watching it, either live or afterwards. It is the last of this particular series on Walaya and Aza in the age of COVID-19. And I am very grateful to the other organizers, those who have worked with me very assiduously in this. In particular, I would like to mention Sayyid Mustafa Abdi and also Sheikh Kumail Rajani for their wonderful work and help in making this a possibility. I don't want to take any more time. It is an important night as well. It is the, for some people it might be the day, or it is the eve of the martyrdom, the shahadat, the istishhad of Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam. So it's one of those very important nights during this period of Muharram and Safar, where we remember him, of what happened to him after Karbala, as well as his particular martyrdom. So without further ado, let us begin our majlis properly, as we do with the poetry from Sayyid Ali Naqvi in Leeds, who will present one of his poems in English. So please welcome Sayyid Ali Naqvi with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum.
Today, yesterday actually, and today I've been really meditating on Sayyida Zainab and her role. And one of the personal things for me that I feel that we as a Muslim Ummah don't do enough of is respect the might and the power of Sayyida Zainab and the contribution that she made in saving Islam itself. The poets say that when Imam Husayn was going to battle, he turned to Bibi Zainab and said, you know, I will win this victory, but you will win the final victory. And her strength and her perseverance is something that is an inspiration to everyone who is fighting tyranny at this time. So this is again an epic form poem where I address the moment when Sayyida Zainab stands up and admonishes and literally destroys the empire of Yazid ibn Muawiyah and takes away any legitimacy from him. And I've taken some liberal ways of molding her speech to make it fit the form. So please forgive me for that. And I do give voice to Yazid as a character in this poem. So please forgive me if that comes across as being quite intense. Salawat. His laughter fills the hall like lead shot dropped down towers, forming into hunks of death. This tyrant is young, his head like a tack, brash and burnished in defiance, as if he would see out the tide that drowned Pharaoh. His eyes are steeped in wine, his words are laced with the dripping madness of jealous rage. Look, the mighty Banu Hashim, the chosen, the so-called honor of ancient Arabs, nothing but our chains for you in this world. What revelation, what word, what message, how they played the old nomads for power. The candles flare as he rides on his throne. Courtiers shift around him with the flicker. Some are beginning to cover their faces as if yellow sulfur heaves from his mouth. He glares round himself, suddenly fearful. Then the confidence of the charlatan drags him directly into arrogance. He turns to the bowed heads huddled in rows. Where is your word now? Your angels, your jinn? We burn our mighty revenge in your flesh. We hang each head as our retribution. I once again make our lost greatness known. I am the Bani Umayyad. Honor is restored. But what if your liberator? No crack of lightning? No burst of starlight? Here you are, driven to nothing by our strength, gazing on the shards of your broken house. What do you see in what I have forged? The prisoners are mostly silent, save the sighs. He is not satisfied and stands in his seat. I asked you, ingrates, what hell you see here? There is a pause. Then a figure speaks. I see there is only eternal beauty. Zainab rises. Zainab, the Sayyidah. Now there is no throne, seat, courtiers. Gone is the gold and the glamour, all shrunken as if shame has warped them into nothing. There is just Zainab, and she stands in front of the ever-diminishing tyrant. God will deal with you. The messenger is our resistance. Jibreel our support. I am from Muhammad, he was from God. I am from Ali and he was from justice. I am from Zahra and she was from love. In what shadow of creation do you hide from the maker of plans, from the truth, from the one that made you worthy of life, yet you spurned the great gift by bathing in blood? Do you think those scions of Ibrahim would be left abandoned to this Namrud? And these lips that you beat with your brutal cane, were they not kissed every day by Muhammad? Were those hands your wolves tore not held by him? Your place, tyrant, is within the glass furnace. Your venal spite, vile hatred conspires in your condemnation and the la'an of the ages. These trappings will fade, and you will too. And the rats around you scurry safe. You will be left with full generations that curse your name and those who praise you. Our journey is with the everlasting. Our souls were bought and we are beholden. We have given our totality. Allah wills it. All I see is beauty. Zainab nails the tyrant back to his black throne. The addled mind cannot grasp the power emanating from the great Sayyidah, and he totters, mead spilt on himself, as he fades into delusion and rambling. In the hall there is now agitation, as if the minds fogged with power and greed have unshackled themselves for a short while. Quietly they remove the limp, broken doll. Zainab is Zainab, and now they see their fall. Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد. Thank you, Sayyid Ali Naqvi. We will now go to Lucknow for the Sozkhani, again for the last Sozkhani in this Ashra of Majalis. And as we've been trying to say all along, this particular tradition, this literary, this adabi tradition is very central to the Majlis. बल्कि यूं कहा जा सकता है कि सोज़खानी के बगैर मजलिस जो है मुकम्मल बिल्कुल नहीं होती। तो इसी मजलिस की तकमील के लिए हम जाते हैं लखनऊ और जनाब अस्करी नकवी साहब सोज़खानी पेश करेंगे। उनकी तक़वियत के लिए और हम सब की नफूस की तबाबत के लिए आप लोग सब एक नारे सलावत।
शुक्रिया सज्जाद। रुखसत है हुसैन की, इमाम हुसैन करबला को रवाना होना चाहते हैं। मंजर क्या है उस वक्त और किस तरह से अनीस उस मंजर को खींचता है, पेश खिदमत है। हुसैन जब के चले हुसैन जब के चले बाद दोपहर रन को हुसैन जब के चले बाद दोपहर रन को कोई न था कोई न था जो संभाले रकाबे तौसन को हुसैन जब के चले बाद दोपहर रन को कोई न था जो संभाले रकाबे तौसन को हाय सकीना झाड़ रही थी अबा के दामन को आए सकीना झाड़ रही थी अबा के दामन को हुसैन चुपके खड़े थे झुकाए गर्दन को हुसैन चुपके खड़े थे झुकाए गर्दन को नासरा था कोई शाह करबलाई को नासरा था कोई शाह करबलाई को फकत बहन ने किया था सवार भाई को हुसैन जब के चले हुसैन मैदान करबला में पहुंचते हैं, शहादत हासिल करते हैं। बहन ज़ैनब अपने भाई को याद करती हैं, न जाने कितने हवाले देती हैं, सबको याद करती हैं, सकीना के हवाले से याद करती हैं। क्या कहती हैं बहन ज़ैनब? नदिया किनारे ज़ैनब बीबी नदिया किनारे ज़ैनब बीबी खड़ी ये पुकारे भाई जान। नदिया किनारे ज़ैनब बीबी खड़ी ये पुकारे भाई जान। सोगमा तुमरे बाली सकीना बिलकत है नादान। सोगमा तुमरे बाली सकीना बिलकत है नादान। हाय हुसैन के बन छायो हाय हुसैन के बन छायो रे तुमरे बिना सब घर सुनसान ओ जाए बचो कौन नगरिया बीरन मैं कुर्बान नदिया किनारे। बानो हुसैन की बीवी करबला ख़त्म हो जाने के बाद रन में जाती हैं, अपने बच्चे अली अकबर को तलाशती हैं। कि मेरा बच्चा कहाँ है? न हौदज है, न कजावा है, न अमारी है, नंगे सर बानोस मैदान में जहां लाशों का ढेर है वहां अपने बच्चे को तलाशते हुए पहुंचती हैं। क्या मंजर है। जब रन में बानुए बेकस की सवारी आई, जब रन में बानुए बेकस की सवारी आई, लाशे अकबर पे ये करती हुई जारी आई। अरे उठ मेरे लाल ये मुश्ताक तुम्हारी आई, उठ मेरे लाल ये मुश्ताक तुम्हारी आई। अरे देखो किस शान से अम्मा है तुम्हारी आई, और ना तो हो दजना कजावा ना मारी बेटा, और नंगे सर बलवे में है अम्मा ये तुम्हारी बेटा। ओ मैंने 18 बरस पाला था कर के मेहनत, मैंने 18 बरस पाला था करके मेहनत, तुम पर कुर्बान किया दोनों जहां की हशमत, जो मैं कहती थी बड़ी दी है खुदा ने नेमत, जो मैं कहती थी खुदा ने बड़ी दी है नेमत, काम आओगे मेरे, काम आओगे मेरे, होगा जो वक्त आफत। अरे आई आफत तो गला तुमने कटाया बेटा, आई आफत तो गला तुमने कटाया बेटा, आप आफत से छुटे माँ को फसाया बेटा। अरे ये दुआ थी, ये दुआ थी सदोसी साल रखे हक जिंदा, वो भी दिन आए कि देखूं तेरे सर पे सहरा, वो अपनी भावज को मुहाफे से उतारे कुबरा, अपनी भावज को मुहाफे से उतारे कुबरा, अपनी भावज को महाफे से उतारे कुबरा, मुश्तैर करके लाया है बहू इब्ने ज़हरा, जाहो इक़बाल बढ़े खुर्रम दिल शाद रहे, जाहो इक़बाल बढ़े खुर्रम दिल शाद रहे, ओ मैं रहूं या ना रहूं घर मेरा आबाद रहे, रन में जब बानुए बेकस की सवारी आई, बस आखिर में वही बानो उस अंधेरे कैद खाने में अपने शौहर कब सोग मनाती हैं, को याद करती हैं, बैन करती हैं, कहती हैं कहें बानो मैं कहें बानो मैं शीस नवाऊं कहाँ मोरा, सैया तो मैं का बिसार गयो, कहें बानो मैं शीस नवाऊं कहाँ मोरा सैया तुम का विसार गयो हो मोरी नाव भंवर बिच डार गयो आप डूबत डूबत पार गयो कहें बानो मैं तो दूधन धार नहाए रही मैं तो पूतन भाग सुहाए रही मैं तो लाख सिंगार बनाए रही मुरा साईं सिंगार उजार गयो कहें बानो मैं तो बीच समुंदर था लई मोरी झोली ममोती समोए रहो शाह अपन लाल निसार लियो मुरा मोतियन हार बिथार गयो कहें बानो ओ क्यों फातिमा बीबी से जाए कहो वके सारे कुटुंबवा कलूट लिहिन हो क्यों फातिमा बीबी से जाए कहो वके सारे कुटुंब वा कलूट लिहिन क्यों एक चदरिया पठे न दियो क्यों एक चदरिया पठे न दियो रा बरी सी सुगार गयो कहें बानो क्यों दे समदीना में जाए कहो के रसूल का नाती है खेत रहो क्यों दे समदीना में जाए कहो के रसूल का नाती है खेत रहियो आज बनमा हुसैना आय बस्यो और आपन देश उजाड़ गयो कहें बानो मैं शीस नवाऊं कहाँ मोरा सैया तुम का विसार गयो आदाब शुक्रिया आदाब
बहुत शुक्रिया अस्करी भाई, खुदा आपको सलामत रखे और हमेशा इसी तरह खोसखानी करते रहें आप मजालिस में. For many of us in this time in COVID, we would very much like to be in Karbala so that we can visit our Imam and pay our respects to the Shuhada. And of course, for the vast majority of us, this is not possible in the current circumstances, and we pray that we will have the opportunity to do so in the near future. And this is why it's especially a pleasure that our khitab today, our Majlis address today, will be coming from Karbala and will be addressed by Sayyid Husayn Qazwini. But before we go to Sayyid Husayn for his address, please may I ask you all to join me in reciting a Surah Al-Fatiha for all of our marhumeen, all of those who are afflicted by COVID-19, and particularly, if I can, ask you to do the Surah Al-Fatiha for my late uncle, Sayyid Muhammad Haidar ibn Sayyid Haidar Hussain Qazwini. Fatiha.
Sayyidina, are we ready?
Yes, Bismillah, Sayyid.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت، وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا، ورحمة الله وبركاته. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي. I offer my sincerest condolences to the Imam of our time and to all mu'mineen from around the globe on the martyrdom of our fourth Imam, Al-Imam, the oppressed Imam, the lonely Imam, Al-Imam Zayn al-Abidin, alayhi afdalu salatu wassalam. Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, there is much to talk about him. Where do we start and where do we end? In the brief time that we have tonight, we will try to touch upon as many points as we can regarding the life of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam under the theme of al-wala wal-aza in the time of COVID-19. First of all, there are many Shia, many followers of Ahlul Bayt have a wrong perception of Imam Zayn al-Abidin. There are many who assume that Imam Zayn al-Abidin was weak and ill throughout his entire life. It is typical that there are some khutaba and orators in the end of every majlis when they pray for the ill, they say, نسألك بحق العليل الإمام زين العابدين. We ask you by the one who is ill, Imam Zayn al-Abidin. And this confirms the perception, the image that Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam was ill throughout his entire lifetime. And that he was weak, he was frail, he was fragile. This is wrong. This is a mistake. Imam Zayn al-Abidin was strong, he was powerful, he was as ordinary as the rest of the Imams. He was energetic. In fact, he was a fierce warrior in the battle. In the battlefield, he was a fierce warrior. He could have carried the sword and fought just like any other champion and warrior. But on the day of Ashura, it was the will of Allah that Imam Zayn al-Abidin be ill. This was Allah's divine will, that Imam Zayn al-Abidin be ill so that he does not fight, so that the line of Ahlul Bayt, the lineage of the Imams and the Ahlul Bayt continues in his bloodline. It was Allah's will that there is an Imam at the time. If Imam Zayn al-Abidin had fought on the day of Ashura, the Imams would have ended, the progeny would have ended. Although Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam was also present on the day of Ashura in Karbala, but he was young. He was maybe 2-3 years old. It was the will of Allah that Imam Zayn al-Abidin falls ill during this period so that he's not killed, so that he's not murdered, so that the lineage of Ahlul Bayt and the Imams remains through him. So this is the first perception that we have to correct regarding Imam Zayn al-Abidin. After the day of Ashura, after this tragedy, Imam Zayn al-Abidin lived a normal life. He gained back his health. He was able to live a normal life. He wasn't ill and sick throughout his life. Imam Zayn al-Abidin lived 34 years after the martyrdom of his father, Imam Husayn alayhi salam. 34 years after Ashura. It was a normal life until the end when he was poisoned. But throughout his life, he was healthy. Generally speaking, he was healthy, just like the other Imams. A very important feature regarding the life and seerah of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam is that the Imam had to lead an underground movement. Shi'ism was under threat. The followers of Ahlul Bayt were in danger. Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam could not propagate for the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt in public. He couldn't sit in the Prophet's mosque and teach in public, nor in Masjid al-Kufa, nor in public places, as was the case with Imam al-Sadiq, Imam al-Baqir, and more so with Imam al-Sadiq. Imam al-Sadiq's time is different from Imam Zayn al-Abidin's time. Imam al-Sadiq lived a time of political turmoil. The Umayyads were facing difficulties at home. Their power was under threat. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam was able to use this time to disperse knowledge, while the time of Imam Zayn al-Abidin was a time for taqiyya, immense taqiyya. Hence, Imam Zayn al-Abidin bought many slaves. Yes, Imam Zayn al-Abidin was a slave owner. But why? For this reason. For this reason. He educated those slaves. He did not treat them as slaves. He possibly bought them. He bought them with his money. He bought them into his house. But he did not treat them as slaves. and he educated them. He taught them the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. He taught them the Quran. He taught them the true Islam. And then he would set these slaves free for them to go and disseminate knowledge, for them to spread the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt. This was a prime feature in the life of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. That he owned slaves not for the sake of wanting to have slaves or for sexual pleasure with female slaves or so on and so forth. No, it was for the purpose of educating the Shia through these slaves. He would buy them, he would bring them home, he would educate them, he would raise them in the proper Islamic manner, the way that the Ahlul Bayt wanted. He would put in them the spirituality that he had, and then he would set them free. And they would go and spread the message of Ahlul Bayt. In fact, we have many cases in which Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam was kind. We have several stories and instances where Imam Zayn al-Abidin showed kindness to these slaves. He would sit and eat with them. He would sit on the same dinner table with them, so to speak, on the same sufra. He would eat with them. He did not treat them as slaves, but rather as friends, as pupils, as students. Another very important feature regarding the seerah and the life of Imam Zayn al-Abidin is the feature of dua. Imam Zayn al-Abidin used dua and supplication as a means of propagating to Islam. And this is a feature, although we see other Imams who had du'as of their own. For example, Imam Ali alayhi salam has dua sabah, he has dua kumayl. Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, he has his epic dua Arafah, which in my humble opinion is one of the greatest du'as that is stated by the Ahlul Bayt. One of the best du'as that we have, the most spiritual du'as that we have is dua Arafah. The dua stated by Imam al-Husayn on the day of Arafah 1 year before his death, approximately 1 year before his death, 1 year and a month. But the vast majority of our du'as come from Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, al-Sahifa al-Sajadiyah, which carries some of the most beautiful supplications that we have. Dua makarim al-akhlaq. You see, it's called a dua, but it's a lesson. It's a lesson on akhlaq. The Imam is teaching his students and his companions regarding akhlaq. In one section of Dua Kumayl, he says that I ask you for every section, for every part of my life where you raise me in knowledge, you raise me in the eyes of people, lower me in my own eyes. Meaning, the more popular I become, the more loved I become in people's lives, but I want you to make me less in my own eyes, so that I do not become proud. I do not have pride. I do not have arrogance. It's a dua, but it's actually meant to raise, to teach, to admonish, to advise. Dua makarim al-akhlaq, one of the most beautiful du'as by Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. Dua Abu Hamza al-Thimali, one of the greatest du'as of our time, an epic dua. Ilahi, la tu'addibni bi'uqubatik, wa la tamkur bi fi hilatik. If you permit me, I'd like to read you a bit of this dua. من أين لي الخير يا رب ولا يوجد إلا من عندك ومن أين لي النجاة ولا تستطاع إلا بك للذي أحسن استغنى من عونك ورحمتك وللذي أساء واجترأ عليك لم يرضك خرج عن قدرتك. Beautiful dua. For 1 hour, Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam speaks to Allah in the most intimate ways. This dua is usually recited in the month of Ramadan, but it is not restricted to the month of Ramadan. Beautiful dua. The way the Imam confesses his sins, the way he confesses his love to Allah. لا تؤدبني بعقوبتك. Do not discipline me with your punishment. ولا تمكر بي في حيلتك. من أين لي الخير يا ربي? Where will I find any goodness if it does not come from you? Look in this section. سيدي سيدي أخرج حب الدنيا من قلبي واجمع بيني وبين المصطفى وآله خيارتك من خلقك وخاتم النبيين صلى الله عليه وآله. My Lord, take that love of dunya away from my heart. The love of dunya. حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة. The love of dunya is the origin of every sin. Pride. Why are people proud? Because of love of dunya. Love of money, wealth, desires, lust, power, dictatorship, tyranny. It all goes back to حب الدنيا. Imam Zayn al-Abidin goes to the root cause of all of our problems, of all of our miseries. He says, أخرج حب الدنيا من قلبي وانقلني إلى درجة التوبة إليك. And allow me to transform to the stage of tawbah. Tawbah is a stage. درجة التوبة. Tawbah is not just saying astaghfirullah rabbi wa atubu ilayh. It's a stage. Allow me to reach the stage of tawbah. وعني بالبكاء على نفسي فقد أفنيت بالتسويف والآمال عمري وقد نزلت منزلة الآيسين من خيري فمن يكون أسوأ حالا مني إن أنا نقلت على مثل حالي إلى قبر لم أمهده لرقدتي ولم أفرشه بالعمل الصالح لضجعتي. And help me cry for myself. أعني بالبكاء على نفسي. We should cry for ourselves out of sadness. What will happen to us at the time of death? What will happen to us? What will happen to us when Munkar and Nakir come to us? What will happen to us in the first night of our grave? فَمَنْ يَكُونُ أَسْوَأَ حَالٍ. Who is in a worse position than I am when they put me in a grave that I did not furnish, I did not prepare. لَمْ أَفْرُشُهُ بِالْعَمَلِ الصَّالِحِ لِضَجْعَتِي. I did not prepare that grave of mine for good deeds. We're in the age of COVID-19. We see people dying left and right. Our friends, family members, classmates, teachers. We could be next. Tomorrow it could be me. Am I ready to go? Is my grave ready? Have I done enough good deeds for that grave? If anything that COVID-19 has taught us, it has taught us that life is short, that life is not worth it. Stealing, cheating, lying, fooling people, working so hard for dunya, but what is the result? The result is a grave 6 feet under, and will be forgotten. Look, subhanAllah, during the age of COVID-19, there's no funerals, there's no tashir'. 2 people take us to our graves, they put us quickly, and they leave. And we don't even have a funeral service, there's no memorial. Previously, people would sit and cry for 2 days, 3 days, they would attend a funeral. Now when we die, no one even attends our funeral. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. It's just us and our a'mal. The only thing that will benefit us There's no tashri', no funeral will benefit us. People will even forget about us. All we have is a'mal. لم أفرشه بالعمل الصالح لوجهته. Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam raised his followers and lovers and close companions. He raised the Shia through these du'as, through these supplications. This supplication of Dua Abu Hamza is more powerful than 100 lectures and 100 sermons and 100 books. It's so powerful. It's so touching. And then you have Al-Munajat, Al-Khamsata Ashar, these gems, this jewelry, this treasure that we have that no one else has. No one from any school of thought has treasures that like the way we do. Just these Munajat Al-Khamsata Ashar, the 15 Munajat that Imam Zayn al-Abidin has, Munajat al-Ta'ibin, Munajat al-Khaifin, Munajat al-Shakirin. How beautiful. Allow me to read to you something from Munajat al-Ta'ibin. إلهي ألبستني الخطايا ثوب مذلتي وجللني التباعد منك لباس مسكنتي. The Imam says that my sins have let me wear the clothing of disgrace. Yes. Sins put us in clothing of disgrace. And taqwa puts us in the best of clothing, the clothing of taqwa. Yes. وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. The Quran says. لِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى. Taqwa, righteousness, piety, it's like clothing that protects us. What do our clothing do? They protect us from the heat of the sun of the summer and the cold of the winter. Taqwa protects us from the nafs, al-amarati bis-su', protects us from shaitan. ألبستني الخطايا ثوب مذلتي فأحيه بتوبة منك يا أملي ويا بغيتي ويا سؤلي ومنيتي فوعزتك ما أجد لذنوبي سواك غافرا ولا أرى لكسري غيرك جابرا. I do not find anyone that could forgive my sins other than you, my Allah. And no one can fix my break or what is broken of me other than you. You can bring me back. These beautiful munajat that we rarely refer to. We, the followers of Ahlul Bayt, we have this treasure box. It's worth, believe me, it's worth more than treasure. What is good of material treasure that will finish and perish and might lead us to hellfire? This is the genuine treasure. The munajat of Imam Zayn al-Abidin, as-Sahif as-Sajjadiyah, Dua Abu Hamza al-Thamali. This is the real treasure. This is the real treasure. Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq. This is the real treasure. But we don't know. We followers of Ahlul Bayt, we don't realize what treasure we have. We don't realize what gift we have, we carry. So this is another aspect. This is a very important aspect. The dua of Imam Zayn al-Abidin. وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي. Allah says, let them call me. I am close. If my servants, Ya Rasulullah, if my servants ask you about me, tell them that I am close. I am not far. أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان. Those who call on me, I will answer them. I will reply to them. فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي. Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam emphasized on this feature of Islam, the feature of dua, to raise his students and companions by dua. Another very important feature of Imam Zayn al-Abidin is the treatise on rights, Rasalatul Huquq. This magnificent achievement of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. He talks about the rights of a father, the rights of a mother, the rights of a brother, the rights of a child and a son, the rights of a neighbor, the rights of a teacher. Rights, right after right after right after right. Today, the West speaks of rights, human rights. They seek pride in that. They raise the banner of human rights. Imam Zayn al-Abidin spoke about human rights 14 centuries ago. The rights of a mother, the rights of a father, the rights of children. The rights of a teacher, the rights of a student. Imam Zayn al-Abidin discussed this 14 centuries ago in his Risalat al-Huquq that has been translated in many languages. It's been translated to English. I advise all brothers and sisters to read Risalat al-Huquq by Imam Zayn al-Abidin. Another very important feature of Imam Zayn al-Abidin was his worship. Zaynul Abidin. The Imam is called the ornament of the worshippers. Zaynul Abidin. Who had worship like Imam Zayn al-Abidin? In fact, he didn't view himself as having a significant amount of worship. He didn't see that his worship was anything significant. He was one day asked about his worship, and he said, "Ayna ibadati min ibadat jaddi Ali ibn Abi Talib." Where is my worship from the worship of my grandfather Ali ibn Abi Talib? That was a true worship. This is what Imam Zayn al-Abidin would say. But Imam Zayn al-Abidin, his worship, his prostration. Imam Zayn al-Abidin was known for his sujood. Sayyid sajidin, the master of the prostrators. Sujood, my dear friends, we take it lightly. Sujood is so powerful. It's the most powerful form of ibadah. That is why it is not permissible to perform sujood to anyone other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. And by the way, the sujood to Adam by the angels, it was sujood to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Adam was merely a qibla. The same way that we prostrate towards the Kaaba. We're not prostrating to the Kaaba. We're prostrating in the direction of the Kaaba. The Kaaba is our qibla. So too was Adam. He was the qibla for the angels. Sujood is for Allah. It is not permissible to perform sujood for anyone else. Because sujood is the essence of, or is one of the greatest manifestation of worship. It's a sign of obedience, submission, complete submission. When you're in the state of sujood. Imam Zayn al-Abidin was known for his sujood. To the point that his skin had become dry, the skin on his forehead. And al-masajid as-sab', the 7 body parts that are placed on the ground during sujood, they had become dry. The skin had become dry, especially on his forehead. The skin would peel off. Imam Zayn al-Abidin was called the Thafanat. One of his titles is Thafanat. Thafanat is the dry skin of a camel. You know, when a camel sits, the elbows, so to speak, of a camel are very dry because they're on the sand. So it becomes very dry. Imam Zayn al-Abidin's forehead had become so dry, the skin, that he would peel it off time and time again. The skin would be peeled off. Sayyid sajidin, who was known for his sujood. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa had a companion who would serve him, who would bring him food, who would put his shoes in front of him. Although Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa did not want to be served, he did not enjoy being served. But some companions, they wanted the honor to serve Rasulullah, so they would do so. One day, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a companion who would serve him for free. He volunteered. One day, Rasulullah told him that I'd like to repay you. You've been serving me for all these years. Ask for whatever you'd like. Ask for anything that you'd like, and I would like to repay you. If you have a dua, if you have a wish, because Rasulullah mustajabu da'wah. Rasulullah's dua is accepted. He said, let me think about it. I will give you my answer tomorrow. The young man, he went home, he slept. The next day he came to Rasulullah. I told him, Ya Rasulullah, I thought of my wish. I want to be with you and in your stage in heaven, in your position in heaven, the same level in heaven. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam raised his hand and he prayed. He told him, لَكَ ذَلِكَ, you will have that. That wish will be granted. I will ask Allah for this. وَلَكِنْ, however, أَعِنِّي بِطُولِ سُجُودِكَ, help me get you reach that position by prolonging your sujood, prolonging your prostration. Our sujood is 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds at the most. How long do we put our forehead on the turba and we say Subhan Rabbi al-A'la wa bihamdi, and we say the supplications that are recommended in sujood? How long? How long is our sujood? If we are in the habit of prolonging that sujood, closing our eyes, thinking that nothing in this existence matters other than Allah. Our existence is for Allah. That's it. We'll put our forehead on the sand now. Tomorrow we'll be under the sand. It humbles us. Sujood humbles us. It crushes our ego. The most egotistical of us, the most proud of us, those who have the most amount of pride, sujood crushes our ego and our pride. And it angers shaitan, iblis, because shaitan failed in the test of sujood. So when he sees a mu'min, a believer performing sujood, it breaks his back, as we have narrations on this. Imam Zayn al-Abidin, known for his sujood, known for his dua, known for his tawaf, known for his hajj. He walked from Medina to Mecca and performed hajj numerous times. He would come to Masjid al-Haram when everyone else would be leaving at night after Salat al-Isha. It was Imam Zayn al-Abidin's time to enter the mosque after Salat al-Isha. And he would spend the night performing tawaf, one tawaf after the other, one tawaf after the other. Tawus al-Yamani was not a follower of Ahlul Bayt, but he was a lover of Ahlul Bayt. He loved the Ahlul Bayt. He says, رأيت علي بن الحسين عليه السلام يطوف من العشاء إلى السحر ويتعبد. He says, I saw Ali ibn Husayn come to Masjid al-Haram from the time of Isha up till Sahar, right before dawn, worshipping. فلما لم يرى أحدا رمق السماء بطرفه. Imam Zayn al-Abidin, when he looked right and left, when he noticed that no one is watching, he raised his head to the sky. رمق السماء بطرفه. He raised his eyes to the sky and he said, إلهي غارت نجوم سماواتك وهجعت عيون أنامك. My Lord, your stars are shining and your servants are sleeping. وأبوابك مفتحات للسائلين. And your doors are open for those who ask. جئتك لتغفر لي. I have come so that you may forgive me. وترحمني. You may have mercy on me. وتريني وجه جدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله في عرصات يوم القيامة. And so that you may show me the face of my grandfather Rasulullah on the day of judgment. And then ثم بكى. Imam Zayn al-Abidin cried وقال, and he said, وعزتك وجلالك ما أردت بمعصيتي مخالفتك. I did not want to disobey you with my sins. وما عصيتك إذ عصيتك وأنا بك شاك. When I committed my sin, I did not do so because I have doubt in you. ولا بنكالك جاهل. And nor am I ignorant of your wrath. ولا لعقوبتك متعرض. Nor do I want to be punished by you. ولكن سولت لي نفسي. It is because of my nafs. وعانني على ذلك سترك المرخى علي. And what helped me commit a sin is you do not expose me. You cover up for me. فالآن من عذابك من يستنقذني. Who will protect me from your wrath? وبحبل من أعتصم إن قطعت حبلك عني. And to whose rope will I hold on to if you cut off your rope from me? فوا سوءته غدا من الوقوف بين يديك. What will I do tomorrow when I stand in front of you? إذا قيل للمخفين جوزوا وللمثقلين حطوا. When those who have light deeds will be told stop, and those who have heavy deeds will be told put your deeds in front of you. أمع المخفين أجوز أم مع المثقلين أحط. ويلي كلما طال عمري كثرت خطاياي ولم أتب. Woe unto me, the more I live, the older I become, the more I have sins. أما آن لي أن أستحي من ربي. Is it not time for me to be embarrassed of my Lord? Imam Zayn al-Abidin is saying this. What should I say? What should sinners like me say? If Imam Zayn al-Abidin is saying, is it not time for me to be embarrassed of my Lord? What should I say? What should sinners like me say? ثم بكى وأنشأ يقول أتحرقني بالنار يا غاية المنى فأين رجائي ثم أين محبتي أتيت بأعمال قباح رزية وما في الورى خلق جناك جنايتي. Tawus al-Yamani said, I approached Imam Zayn al-Abidin. I told him, Subhanallah, you are saying this. وَأُمُّكَ فَاطِمَةٌ وَجَدُّكَ عَلِيٌّ وَجَدُّكَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. It is you that is saying this, and your grandmother is Fatima, your grandfather is Ali, your grandfather is Rasulullah. Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam told him, دعني عن حديث جدي وأمي وأبي إن الله خلق الجنة لمن أطاعه ولو كان عبدا حبشيا. He said, leave my mother and father and grandfather out of this discussion. They have nothing to do with this. Allah has created heaven for anyone who obeys Him, even if he is a slave from Abyssinia. ولو كان عبدا حبشيا وخلق الله النار لمن عصاه ولو كان سيدا قرشيا. And Allah has created hellfire for anyone who disobeys Him, even if he's a master, a slave owner from Quraysh. It's about action, it's about deeds, it's about obedience and disobedience. It has nothing to do with my father and grandfather. If it was lineage and blood that played a role, then Abu Lahab would be the first person to enter heaven because he's the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Finally, and a very important feature of Imam Zayn al-Abidin is his azab. Our theme, wala and azab. What compares to the azab of Imam Zayn al-Abidin? Imam al-Sadiq says, al-bakka'una khamsa. 5 individuals are known for shedding their tears and crying. Adam, when Adam was brought down from the sky to earth, he wept and wept and wept. Yaqub, Prophet Yaqub, when he lost Yusuf. Yusuf himself, when he lost his father. Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, when she lost her father, Rasulullah, and Imam Zayn al-Abidin. A narrator, a companion says, the narration says that Imam Zayn al-Abidin cried continuously for 20 years. For 20 years. مَا وَضَعَ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ طَعَامٌ إِلَّا بِكَى. If he would see food in front of him, he would cry. If he would see water in front of him, he would cry. Water would remind him of his father. Food would remind him of his father. Someone told him, يَا ابْنَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أَمَا الْآنَ لِحُزْنِكَ أَنْ يَنْقَضِي. It is not time for your azab, for your mourning, for your crying to end. Isn't it enough? 20 years, Ya ibn Rasulullah. Enough crying, enough shedding tears. Imam Zayn al-Abidin, this is the azab. This is the azab of Imam Zayn al-Abidin. He said, وَيْحَكْ إِنَّ يَعْقُوبَ النَّبِي كَانَ لَهُ 12 ابْنًا. Yaqub, the Prophet, had 12 sons. فَغَيَّبَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ وَاحِدًا مِّنْهُمْ فَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنْ كَثْرَةِ بُكَائِهِ عَلَيْهِ. Yaqub had 12 sons. Allah took one of them and he did not kill him. One of them disappeared from him. He cried and cried and cried until his eyes became white, meaning he lost his eyesight. وَشَابَ رَأْسُهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ. And his head became gray from his aza, from his sadness. وَحْدَوْدَبَ ظَهْرُهُ مِنَ الْغَمِّ. And his back was bent. He became a hunchback. His back was bent because of his aza. وَكَانَ ابْنُهُ حَيًّا فِي الدُّنْيَا. This is all while Yusuf was alive. But as for me, as for my aza, وَأَنَا نَظَرْتُ إِلَىٰ أَبِي. I saw my father. وَأَخِي وَعَمِّي. I saw my father and my brother and my uncle. وَسَبْعَةَ عَشَرٍ مِّنْ أَهْلِ بَيْتِي مَقْتُولِينَ حَوْلِي. I saw my father and my brother and my uncle and 17 of my family members slaughtered around me. فَكَيْفَ يَنْقَضِي حُزْنِي. How do you want my sadness to end? How do you expect my aza to end? This is the aza of Imam Zayn al-Abidin. He was tormented for years. He would never forget Karbala. He would never forget Ashura. One day he passed by a slaughterhouse. He saw a butcher before he slaughtered a sheep. He offered it water. He offered water to the sheep. And then he slaughtered. He told him, why? Why do you, Imam Zayn al-Abidin asked the butcher, why do you offer water? He said, because this is the Islamic thing to do. This is the humane thing to do. We first offer water to the sheep and then we slaughter it. Imam Zayn al-Abidin started crying. He turned towards Karbala. He said, Abatah ya Aba Abdullah. A sheep is given water before it's sacrificed, before it's killed. And you were not given water. You did not taste water before you were slaughtered. Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. One day, one of the companions from Kufa came to Medina. Imam Zayn al-Abidin told him, what happened to Harmala? Tell me about Harmala. He told him he's still alive. Imam Zayn al-Abidin said, Allahumma adiq Harmala harra al-hadid. Let Harmala taste the heat of steel, of iron. And indeed, Al-Mukhtar bin Yusuf al-Thaqafi, he killed Harmala. How much pain did Harmala bring? One day, Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam cried and cried and cried, and I conclude with this. He cried so much. One of the companions told him, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, enough aza, enough pain, enough sadness. Is it not martyrdom? Is martyrdom not a habit for you, a custom for you? أَلَيْسَ الْقَتْلُ لَكُمْ عَادَ يَا ابْنَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. Is not martyrdom part of a tradition for you, Ya Ibn Rasulullah? Told him, Bala, al-qatlu lana aada wa karamatuna min Allah al-shahada. Yes, martyrdom is a habit for it. It's a tradition for us. And our honor from Allah is shahada, martyrdom. Well, let me ask you, وَهَلِ السَّبْيُ لَنَا عَادَ. Are women being taken as captives, is that a tradition for us? When has this ever happened to us, Ahlul Bayt, that our women are taken captives? Our women paraded from city to city. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العلي الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا عيبا إلا سترته ولا خوفا إلا آمنته ولا رزقا إلا بسطته ولا شملا إلا جمعته ولا مرضا إلا شفيته ولا غائبا إلا حفظته وأدنيته ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة لك فيها رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا قضيتها ويسرتها يا أرحم الراحمين ولأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والعلماء الشهداء. We recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all the mu'mineen that we've lost in the age of COVID-19. But before that, a salawat. اللهم صل على محمد
على محمد وآل محمد أجوكم للزهرة سيدنا. We now go to Shabir Tijani for the Nahakhwani.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Tonight we mourn the shahadat, the martyrdom of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. We know that throughout his life, after the events of Sham and Karbala, he would weep tears constantly, and he would repeatedly say, Asham, Asham, Asham. And his companions, the people around him, would ask, why, Imam, why? There are so many events that were unfolded in this time, but one of them that I want to draw your attention to today was the night of the martyrdom of his 4-year-old sister. When I think and imagine what a madhloom is, what someone who is completely oppressed is, I think about that night in the prison. You see, because after his sister passed away, a sister who had been beaten and slapped, whose clothes were so bloodied that she didn't even have a coffin, Imam Sajjad was left with this little body in front of him and the 4 walls of the prison, and his eyes would wander from one side of the prison to the other. What was he looking for? You see, on the day of Ashura, Imam al-Husayn was burying his 6-month-old baby. At least he had a sword to dig a small grave. Imam Sajjad was looking for something, a sword or a stick or something to bury his sister with. In the end, he looked at his own hands that were tied in chains, and with those 2 hands tied in chains, he started to dig a small grave little by little. And as he dug a small grave, he shuffled his sister's body into this grave and he started pouring sand upon her face. And I can only imagine what he must have said in those final moments. But my heart says this. He must have said to his sister, I could not do any more. I promise my hands were tied as I lay you in your grave all alone tonight. My sister, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I raised you with so much love. I fed you with these hands. I could never see you cry. Your wish always was my command. I used to play with you as though we were best friends. Today I am burying you in this foreign land. You were always frightened of the dark when it was night. Forever you lay in a prison where there's no light. My sister, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Is this how this brother will get to say goodbye? Your body is scalded. In some of the riwayats, it's written that Bibi Sakina's body was burnt twice. One was on the night of Sham Ghariba when her clothes were set on fire. And the second time, according to some riwayat, was when she was stopped in the bazaar of the Sham, when the Ahlul Bayt was stopped in the bazaar of Sham. Every few steps they were made to stop. And it is said, according to some riwayat, that scalding water was poured at some instances. And at one point, a lady poured a pan of boiling water upon the Ahlul Bayt, and all of this water fell upon the body of this little girl. Her body was scalded in such a way that her skin became melted into her clothes, and that is one of the reasons why she wasn't given a coffin. Is this how this brother will get to say goodbye? Your body is scalded, so sunken are your eyes. the slaps you have on your face, the sound of your final cries, the state of your body will haunt me until I die. As I use my bare hands to make a grave in the ground, how can I forgive myself? You don't even have a shroud. My sister, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. The night of the orphans, when the tents were set ablaze, you entered the battlefield where bodies lay like a maze. You found our father, on his chest your cheeks you placed. You found peaceful moments before we were dragged away. We walked on a long road when nights turned into days, and tied to a camel was your body in chains. My sister, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Those nights in the dungeon where you weren't allowed to cry. Your body in chains. You stared hopeful, you stared with hopeful eyes. Those nights in the dungeon where you weren't allowed to cry. You stared hopefully at the doves as they used to fly. You wanted to go home and leave all this hurt behind. If you asked for freedom, you would get slaps in reply. I'd say to console you that we will go home soon. Now you were laying alone in the darkened tomb. My sister, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, बीमार मुसाफिर है और शाम का बाजार। सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, हाथों में रस्सियां, पाँव में बेड़ियां, गिर गिर के उठ रहा था बीमार नातवा, गमो रंज से जिगर चाक था, लहू से भरा वो पोशाक था, गरा तौक का था गर्दन पे हार। सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, सीने पे सोने वाली गिरती थी खाक पर, बाची पे तूने ढाया हर एक सितम शिमर, रिदा छिन गई छीनी बालियां, तमाचे लगे कभी सहेलियां, उठाए सितम वो दिल पर हजार। सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, तिश्ना लबी का आला बची थी नौह कर, पानी बहा के जालिम जलती जमीन पर, ये हंस कर कहा वो अम्मू तेरा किधर खो गया, थी लब पे बुका सकीना की गाजी बार बार, सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, बोला यजीद हंस के ऐ बिन्ते मुर्तजा, अब आसरा तुम्हारा
रोल
कोई नहीं रहा, तो बालों से मुंह छुपा के कहा मैं बिन्ते अली हूँ ऐ बेहया, जरा आजमा के देख एक बार, सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, सज्जाद की आज़ार के सकती नहीं कभी, दुनिया को अब तिजानी पैगाम दो यही, जो भी रोकने की कोशिश करे अज़ाए हुसैन वो सब जान ले, उन्हीं पहलानत बेशुमार, सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, सज्जाद का वो इम्तिहान, वो आबिदे बीमार था, वो आबिदे बीमार था, वो आबिदे बीमार था, चलने से जो लाचार था, चलने से जो लाचार था, और शाम का बाजार था, और शाम का बाजार था, और मुस्तफा की बेटियां मौला हक इमाम हसन हुसैन, मौला हक इमाम हसन हुसैन, जा हुसैन जा हुसैन जा हुसैन, हुसैन जा हुसैन जा हुसैन, हुसैन जा हुसैन जा हुसैन जा हुसैन, Hussein. With the tears of Azan in your eyes, I want you to all make this pledge at home that you will stand up for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam stood for on the day of Ashura when he said, Hal min nasin yansurna, and asked us that question, will you stand up for what I stood for? Let's all raise our hands on this day and make that pledge to Imam al-Hussein. When we say, Labbaik ya Hussein, we promise Imam Hussein we will stand up for what he stood for. We will stand against what he stood against. Everyone at home, raise your hand and say, Labbaik ya Hussein, Labbaik ya Hussein. لبيك يا حسين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم أجركم على الزهراء شبير. We will now go to Sheikh Kumail Wajani for the ziyarat.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Tonight is the eve of the Shahada of Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wa salam. Let's turn our faces towards Baqi with the hope that we get chance to recite the ziyarat of beloved Imam in Baqi inshallah ta'ala. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام ولك السلام وإليك يعود السلام سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. وبركاته. السلام على الأئمة الهادين المهديين. السلام على جميع أنبياء الله ورسله وملائكته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام على علي أمير المؤمنين. السلام على الحسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. سيادة الإمام السجاد عليه الصلاة والسلام. السلام عليك يا سيد الساجدين. السلام عليك يا زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا حليف الحسرات. السلام عليك يا ذا الثفنات. السلام عليك يا صاحب العبرات. السلام عليك يا أسير الكربات. السلام عليك يا أعظم للعباء. السلام عليك يا ابن خامس أصحاب أهل الكساء. السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الشهداء. السلام عليك يا عماد الأتقياء. السلام عليك يا زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا زين المتهجدين. السلام عليك يا إمام المتقين. السلام عليك يا ولي المسلمين. السلام عليك يا قرة عين الناظرين العارفين. السلام عليك يا وصي الوسيين. السلام عليك يا خازن وصايا المرسلين. السلام عليك يا زوها المستوحشين. السلام عليك يا نور المجتهدين. السلام عليك يا سراج المرتادين. السلام عليك يا ذخيرة المتعبدين. السلام عليك يا مصباح العالمين. السلام عليك يا سفينة العلم. السلام عليك يا سكينة الحلم. السلام عليك يا ميزان القصاص. السلام عليك يا سفينة الخلاص. السلام عليك يا بحر الندى. السلام عليك يا بدر الدجى. السلام عليك أيها الأواه الحليم. السلام عليك أيها الصابر الحكيم. السلام عليك يا رئيس البكائين. السلام عليك يا مصباح المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا محمد. أشهد أنك حجة الله وابن حجته وأبو حججه وابن أمينه وابن أمنائه، وأنك ناصحت في عبادة ربك وسارعت في مرضاته وخيبت أعداء وسررت أولياء. أشهد أنك قد عبدت الله حق عبادته واتقيت حق تقاته وأعطيته حق طاعته حتى أتاك اليقين. فعليك يا مولاي يا ابن رسول الله أفضل التحية والسلام عليك ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على محمد بن علي باقر النبيين. السلام على جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام على موسى بن جعفر الكاذب. السلام عليك يا أبا الحسن غريب الغرباء معين الضعفاء والفقراء شمس الشموس أنيس النفوس علي بن موسى الردى. السلام على محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام على علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام على الحسن بن علي الزكي الأصغري. السلام على الحجة بن الحسن القائم المهدي. صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على
اللهم
محمد
صل على محمد وآل محمد. It has been a privilege for us to put together this Ashura, or in fact 11 Majalis. And this, of course, is because the Aza of the Imam is indeed a privilege. It is a privilege, but it's also very much central to our identity. Because as I said the other day, this is our story. And it's not just our story, it's a story of humanity. And because of that, it's important that we not only continue to tell the story to ourselves and to our loved ones and to our close ones, but also that we continue to share that story with the world. Don't be ashamed or afraid of doing so. Spread that story. Make that change, make that transformation of the self, and make your world a Husayni world. And with that, we will sign off today. And as ever, please do take care of one another.